Welcome back in. This is Jay's Sports Bar. I'm joined today by former Boise State and Auburn head coach Bryan Harsin. You know him well, obviously, everybody. But how are we doing today, Hars?
Good. Yeah, we're doing great. Thanks for having me.
Kind of a fun way that we start this off here. This is Jay's Sports Bar. So, drink of choice. What is your favorite drink?
Sports Bar. Favorite drink, Pendleton Midnight.
Pendleton Midnight?
Pendleton Midnight.
Okay, I was saying we could either go sport or bar.
No,
I like bar.
Not often, but it is the drink of choice.
How you wind down a little bit. Take us through a little bit of the day in the life of Bryan Harsin right now. Is obviously working at a little bit of a different pace these days, I would say.
Yeah, a little more sleep. Been trying that out some.
Good.
Yeah, the actual 6-7 hours you're supposed to get. That's been beneficial. But still, trying to stay on some type of schedule. So, mornings, get up, coffee, little cold tub, got one of those. Got to try that out. And then I get a workout in. In the mornings, still kind of continue with that and check some emails and, look at what's going on financially with some investments and things like that, and then get on with the day. And whatever my wife and duties as assigned are given to me is what I'm doing next. And then trying to spend some time with Davis before he goes off to college and help him train a little bit. And then a new addition, we got a grandson. And so
First one. You're grandpa now, Grandpa Harsin.
Coach
Harsin.
Just coach.
Oh, just coach.
Just coach. I don't know if I'm going to go with the grandpa yet.
Okay,
I'll go with whatever.
Okay,
I'll go with whatever he wants to call me when he can actually talk.
Okay, cool.
But I think just for me personally, trying to stick with the coach part rather than the grandpa part, I don't feel that old yet. But it's been awesome, man. He's great. My daughter Dane doing phenomenal, and so we have that in our lives now. And then my oldest daughter Devin is doing a tremendous job in her work. Really proud of her. So really, it's get some personal things done in the morning, family time in the afternoon. My wife and I have been catching up on Yellowstone and waiting for the rest of that to finish up. So, but really, the days, it's interesting now at the pace that we worked in football. The days would go by fairly quickly, but there was a lot of time spent in the office, and now like the days fly by. My wife and I say it. We're getting things done, but maybe because we're getting older, but things just go by so quickly. And we try to maximize each and every one we can and enjoy as much as we can.
What perspective have you been able to gain on this work-life balance, I suppose, as you step away from what is one of the more intense jobs that's really out there right now? If you're a head coach of a college football program, it's funny, you said you're supposed to be getting 6 to 7 hours. I think that's kind of on the minimum still there. But I'm assuming that was probably way on the maximum back in the day. But what type of work-life balance perspective have you gained, I guess, over these last 18 months or so?
Sure. Yeah, great question. I don't know if there's ever a balance. It's more of a blend. And I learned this back 2005 when I became the tight ends coach in 2003. We were putting a lot of time in, working hard. We're developing our team. Dan Hawkins was the head coach at the time. And, I had my daughter, Devin. She was born. And so we had another one on the way, Dane. And, was trying to figure out just the family and the work, right? How do we make this all come together and balance it out? I actually read a book called Choosing to Cheat by Andy Staples. And in the book, it was really about you're either going to cheat at home or you're going to cheat at work, right? Like, where are you taking this time? That really helped me figure out that either way, someone's going to get cheated somehow. And it's time to blend. It's time to bring your family into it. And that was a great thing about Dan and Pete and Mac Brown. My wife was around. My kids were around. Like, they were a part of what we were doing. So instead of trying to be away from both, try to bring them into it and make them a part of it. And I think we showed that over the years of, just our family growing through football. And when I became a head coach, you would see them come on the field after games. They were there. They'd be a part of the celebrations in the locker room. And you're not going to get away from the time, but you got to incorporate the people that are important to you into that lifestyle. And I think the coaches that do that, they enjoy it more. I think the ones that don't, it gets to be pretty challenging.
I'm old enough to remember when Davis would show up to practice, and he was so small, it looked like he was almost shot putting the football, as he was throwing it to you.
He was, yeah.
Just completed his senior season at Eagle High, led him on a playoff run, and now he's going to be a Division I athlete here soon. I mean, this is an opportunity. I'd look up on Friday nights, and I'd see you back up there sitting in the stands. I'm not going to lie, I was kind of curious. Would you be the intense guy cheering? You were pretty calm. I think there were probably moments where the heart got beaten a little bit, but you're pretty calm. These are moments that you would have never, have been able to probably experience if you were in the game as a head coach right now. So in terms of just being able to do that, this last fall, how much did it mean to you?
Yeah, it was awesome. We had a chance to do that at Auburn as well. So at Auburn High, he had awesome coaches there.
Okay.
Great head coach, great offensive coordinator, and really I thought his game went to a whole nother level with that staff. They went and played in the championship game at Auburn, and so Davis was splitting time with another kid, but it was awesome to be there as many times as I could to watch him play on Friday nights. Coming back here, watching him get a chance to play with his friends, be at Eagle, they did a great job there. And to be there every single game, now it was awesome just to see him go out there and compete. And I know the work he's put in, so I think, for me as a parent, I've been in that situation as a coach. I know what's going on in the field, so I didn't try to get too caught up in what I can't control. I just tried to watch and enjoy him play. Now, sitting up there with the parents and all that, you get to hear, bad play call, bad this, bad that, which I imagine, I know that's happening obviously when we were coaching too, but I just tried to watch and enjoy the fact that I got a chance to be there and be a part of it, and try to support him as best I could. I might say a few things to him at halftime, or maybe as the team came out, just because that's the coach in you that kind of wants to get the guys going a little bit. But other than that, they had a great run. It was a great team, great effort all season long. Football was really good. So I was really pleased with his experience here, and then his chance to go on and play at the next level and to play for Cody and to be a part of Idaho State and what they're doing. It's a great opportunity for him.
Again, I'm old enough to remember the little kid that would show up at Boise State practice, and like I said, he was so small. It's like he was shot putting the football, and then you see him play, and he's fearless.
He grew up.
He's as competitive as they come.
Yep.
Where does he get that from?
Yeah, his mother. Yeah, definitely. And he could run a little bit too.
I thought
he could
that was
run a
gonna be
little
the
bit, which
answer.
absolutely came from his mother. I can tell you that. Not the Harsin family.
Okay.
All right, it came from the Holbert family. He made the decision his sophomore year he wanted to play quarterback.
Okay.
I think his freshman year he tried to play, and then he went back to playing tight end and linebacker. I always thought he had a linebacker mentality.
I remember you telling me this long ago.
Yeah.
You said that he and I look at the mentality and how I could see it. So, but I remember you saying, I think he's going to be more of a linebacker.
I did. He liked to tackle. He liked to hit. He could play with emotion. He could be aggressive out there. And he came and told me he wants to play quarterback, and I was thinking, dang, all right, well, here's what you're going to have to do it. And I knew he could throw. I knew he could play the position. But he committed to it. And I think his sophomore year and his junior year and his senior year, just the work he put in, but the coaches he had, how he developed, what you saw his senior year, that was him putting in hours of work and going out there and throwing, and he's still doing it. That's the one thing, I'm really proud of him is every week he's training. He's spending time with me on the field to go out there and throw and develop, and then he leaves the end of May to go to Idaho State. But his work ethic, his dedication, those are things that I hope are going to pay off at the next level. I think it will, and it's certainly shown in high school. And that's what happens, right? The guy grows up, he kind of develops, the personality that he needs to be a good player, be successful. And my goal for him at college, I want him to be a great person. I know he's going to be around that with Cody.
Yep.
That's the number one thing. He's going to determine whether he plays or not. I want to see a guy go to class, develop himself as a person, be around great people, be around great support. When I sat down and got to hear Cody talk to the whole group of people that were there, the families and the players, that's exactly what I wanted to hear and where I wanted my son to go and who I wanted to play for, and I think that's going to be a great opportunity for him.
The cool thing here that I feel like is obvious, it might not be so obvious, but your son is going to play for Cody Hawkins. At one point in time, you played for Dan Hawkins when Dan was an assistant coach here.
Yep.
Have you all four been in the same room and talked about this at all? That's pretty cool.
It is cool. Yeah, we haven't been with Dan yet. Now, Dan being done, right, I think he's going to be around, so I get a chance to see more of him. But yeah, with Cody and with Davis, Kess and I, we all got to sit in there, and I recruited Cody. And obviously working for his dad, playing for his dad, Cody being around all the time, watching him grow through being a player into the profession of coaching, and then having a chance to be a head coach. And then, he's been in my house twice on home visits, right? It's just, it's really neat to see his hard work and dedication pay off, and to be in the position he's in.
Fly around, enjoy the day, fly around, enjoy the day.
He's the future of college football, right? He's a young head coach. He's the future of college football. He's doing some great things. I've had a chance to talk to him. He's kind of asked me a few questions. I can tell the wheels are turning, on what he needs to do as a head coach. He's got a great resource in his dad. His dad is a guy that's built things. He can always go to his dad and know that here's a guy that's done it. I'm trying to do these same things. So he's got a great resource there. But the staff, the people, the environment, all that, I couldn't be more pleased that Davis is going there to play for him.
Yeah, and by the way, Cody just signed an extension through 2029, so we know he'll be in Pocatello for a little while, or at least as long as Davis has eligibility, I would say. Real quick, what is it about Boise with coaches coming back here? I mean, I know that you grew up here, so kind of obvious with you, but Frank Solich was at Ohio, and he moves here, and obviously you have Dirk that comes back here, and Chuck Pagano, and I know Chris Peterson will frequent McCall, and what is it about this place that just kind of it's like a magnet for coaches looking to maybe just slow down life a little bit?
You had a lot of coaches come through Boise State. Right, Jim Zorn. I mean, you can go back. You can go through a lot of people that have been
Jim
through.
Zorn came through Boise State?
Oh, yeah, he was there. Yeah, with the hair and all that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, look it up.
Okay.
Yeah, he was. I think he was in camp when I was a kid. But there's some great coaches that have been through Boise State, and I think recent success. You're talking about a lot of those guys that have been a part of that, right? But then other guys have seen it and want to come back here and live in this community, because when you get out in the coaching world, there's some great places. There's also some places that are not so great.
Yeah.
And as you get older, you start to realize, what were some of the best moments I had, and where were they? And I think for your family and for you want to come back to places that you feel like this is going to be a good fit for me. And it's hard not to like Boise, and it's hard not to want to be a part of this community and to live in this state, to have all the things that we have that are available to us. I think that's why a lot of people come back, and why a lot of people that even haven't been here want to come here and be a part of it. So, we left for 2 years and come back, and there's not a field that doesn't have some type of homes or apartments being built in it now, right? I mean, just you see Boise's growing so fast, and rightfully so, but people want to be a part of it, and I think that's the reason why people come here.
I think this is kind of the $1 million question when it comes to Bryan Harsin here. I mean, you achieved so much in your coaching career. You won at an incredibly high rate when you were at your alma mater. Do you want to get back into the game again? And it is kind of a loaded question these days, because it's not, the answer can't be the same as it was when you got in, because the reasons now are so different. The challenges are so different. It's no longer, can you dial up and be a good X and O play caller and beat somebody? It's, how do you navigate NIL? It's kind of a loaded question these days, I know.
Yeah, it's a great question too, because it really has changed. It's much different than when it started, at least when I started in it. But that's change, right? I mean, that's what's going to happen. Things like that in any profession are going to be a part of it. So you got to adapt, you got to grow, you got to become a part of those changes. And then if you don't like them, you got to find ways to go back to some of the things you do feel like were the best ways of doing it. For me, I got into coaching because I love the game of football, and I understood it. I had great people around me that helped me develop myself as a coach, and really felt like I could make an impact, right? Not just through the game of football, but through all the life lessons that you get being a part of a team. I think that's the biggest thing that I miss, is just being a part of a team, being a part of walking into an environment where everybody's trying to get better. Everybody's pushing themselves, whether it's in the weight room, the classroom, whatever it is. Like, that was the focus that we had, and I had a chance to be a part of, that I really enjoyed. That was the best thing about the job, was being a part of that every single day. Now, that's changed some, like to your point. I mean, some of those things, the focus has changed a little bit on the things we're talking about now, NIL, transfer portal. And that's not the coach's fault, that's not the player's fault, that's just how things have developed.
Right.
And I do think a lot of coaches want to kind of steer that back and kind of get back to a medium, a little bit of the development, the coaching, and then obviously what's happening now. But For me personally, I mean, we'll see. I enjoy what I'm doing right now. I enjoy talking to coaches. I enjoy catching up with players. I enjoy spending time with my family. We spent 23 years in the profession, and there were some really good times.
It's over half your life.
Yes, it's been a while. So there's been some really good times, some really tough times. But ultimately, I think what we learned as a family is what's important to us, right? What did we take away from all those experiences? The relationships with the players, the things that we got to be a part of. The wins and losses, those are awesome. I know everybody lives and dies in the wins and losses. Mm-hmm. Those were great.
Right.
All right, to be a part of the wins. The losses are hard, but it was really the whole concept of being a part of a team that I think we, in our family, enjoyed the most. And developing young people to help them go on and be successful in their lives. That's what we wanted to do. And if we could do that, then we felt like we'd make an impact, with people. And then that's really the only reason why we've continued on is that impact and trying to help those guys be successful. So we'll see what happens in the sport right now. I mean, there's a lot of changes going on, and you and I were talking about that before. I think the coaches are trying to work through what they're given right now, and I think they want to see some changes. I think they want to slow some of this stuff down. Not that you don't want to take care of players, not that you don't want to pay guys and all that, but how it's being done, not having a set of rules that are really in place to follow and guidelines. Those are the things that we need to figure out soon.
If somebody had the answer to this, they'd be the commissioner of college football.
We do need a commissioner of college football, yes.
Because that's what the game needs right now. But if you do look at NIL in the transfer portal, what is the biggest challenge that needs to get, figured out in college football right now?
When you're talking about money and guys moving around, right? Those things are going to happen. At the rate at what it's happening at right now, that's where it's getting to be really difficult. Mm-hmm. I think if you could sit in head coaches' meetings and really hear those guys talk, and I've sat in several of them when this was happening, it's not the fact that players are getting paid. It's not the fact that guys can transfer, it's how it's being done. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the only focus that everybody has right now for, media and fans, who's transferring and how much are they getting paid. That's not what this whole thing was about.
Right.
It's about developing your players. It's about creating, a better person through your program, all right, better habits. Giving these guys a chance academically so they can go on and have better lives when football's over, because it's going to end. And, Saban, he put some things out there about, the players when he had meetings with them, right? Yeah. You used to never have, exit meetings after the season. But you're having them now because you don't know who's leaving and you don't know what they want. All those players in those meetings, from what he had said, they're focused on their playing time. They're focused on the amount of money they're going to make and whether they're going to stay or not. Okay, where's the development? Where's the conversation that I need to get better? Where's the things you're going to do to help me develop myself as a person and a player? Mm-hmm. Where are these things going to take me in life? And I think, for a lot of coaches, that's the stuff that matters. And nobody's talking about that. And that bothers a lot of coaches. They're not going to say it because they get crucified if they do, because everyone's to talk about, transfers and money and all that. And if you don't say those things are important, then someone might leave or someone's going to use that against you in recruiting. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, the most important thing is, how are we developing our players? What are we doing with them? How are we helping them better themselves in life? How are we going to win football games doing that? And that's why a lot of coaches got into it. And to me, that's not the focus right now. Mm-hmm. It's everything else. And I think that's what's driving a lot of coaches into making decisions to maybe leave, a lot of frustration. And we got to balance this back out to where we're talking about the important things for young people. Money's going to be there. If they don't like it, they can leave. But let's get back to focusing on why you're going to a certain place, because you want to play for this program. You want to be a part of this developmental process. You want to be somebody that comes out of here with a degree and have that as your alma mater. Some of these guys, where are they going to claim home when they get their degree? They've been to 4 different places, right? Who's inviting them back for, an alumni event? It's interesting kind of what we created, but at the same time, I think we have to get this back to where we're focused on the right things.
I do want to ask you about development in just a second, but I got the quote from Nick Saban. He said, "I thought we could have a hell of a team next year, and maybe 70 to 80% of the guys you talk to, they all want to know 2 things. What are the assurances that I will have playing time because they're thinking about transferring, and how much are you going to pay me?" You just kind of brought that up, and before this, we were kind of talking about it too, for that matter. But it's pretty wild for a program like Alabama that in the toughest conference in the world has won at an absurd rate, and you have 70 to 80% of your players saying, well, am I going to get playing time? And how much are you going to pay me? Versus all the values that Nick Saban could fill with however many books he wants to write when he inevitably does or whatever.
Yeah, and you can. I mean, it's hard to sit there and guarantee anybody anything. Football's a meritocracy, right? Like you go out there and you earn your opportunities in the game, which is what it should be. You know, if you're sitting there, you're going to have guys now that have been your starters for multiple years that are most likely coming back and they're going to be your guy, right?
Yeah.
You have some guys like that. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is you got other guys you're bringing in that you told you can come in here and compete. Mm-hmm. They're not coming to your program if you don't allow them to compete for the spot that they want to play.
Right.
And can you guarantee that? Absolutely not. Now, the financial part, I mean, you can figure that out. But again, those things aren't the most important things necessarily when it comes to developing your team to go out there and win championships. I understand it's in the individual, it's important. And you got to work through that. But now there was a conversation that Mike Loxley at Maryland had with one of his players. He had it on Instagram. I was listening to it, and he had a third-string running back come in there and ask him for $100,000. Like, well, where's the magic number for that?
Right.
And so all we're doing is talking about money. Mm-hmm. We're talking about guaranteeing certain things. Like, that's not what you're able to really do. You can talk about the money, but to guarantee somebody something and then a certain payment with it, let's go out there and just get on the field and let's see what you can do. Mm-hmm. Let's go out there and just work towards getting better every single day. And the hard part is when the practice was over, you'd sit in your locker and you would go through the practice, what was good and bad, right? Mm-hmm. You take it all in, internalize it, and say, okay, I did that really good, did that really bad, I'm going to come back tomorrow and be better. That should be the focus as an athlete, in my opinion. A lot of those conversations now are kind of, what's happening now in the business side of sports, and it's happening in college, right? So now you got young people that have classes, that are trying to better themselves. They're not even where they need to be football-wise, that are just worried about those things. Mm-hmm. Can I get guaranteed this and guaranteed that? Well, you need to put the work in first. And the hard part is I think you hear coaches saying that, and there's a lot of pushback on it. Mm-hmm. Well, you're getting all this money, you're making all this as a head coach or an assistant coach. Yeah, well, you've been through college, right? You wouldn't be making that if you don't have your degree. You wouldn't be in that facility getting paid as an employee if you don't have your degree.
Right.
And you've been through some of those things. So you're trying to pass these lessons on to these players so they have a chance to go on and be successful when football's over. And I just think right now we're losing focus on those things, and we're talking way too much about what you just mentioned that Saban's talked about, and not spend enough time on where we really need to be in the game.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. And I asked Bush Hamden this when he first got here, and I think it was almost like hard for him to comprehend because the rules when he played were just so different. It wouldn't have allowed something like this.
Right.
But you were stuck in a position at Boise State where you were a backup. Had the rules been there, do you think you would have explored a transfer option back then? And do you think you would be where you are today if you did transfer?
Yes, I would have explored it,
okay,
to answer your question, because it's available.
Yep.
And I mean, let's be honest, you go back, and at that age, I mean, there were times when I was playing, I wanted to quit. Mm-hmm. I remember calling my dad up and like, I'm done.
Yeah. And
fortunately, he was like, you need to stick it out, right? Make it through another semester, make it through another practice, whatever it was. And I'm glad I did. Like, I wouldn't be in the position, no, to answer your other question, I wouldn't be in the position I'm in had I not.
I believe that. And in a much different circumstance than you, in my baseball career from my freshman to sophomore year, I did transfer. It was the absolute best decision at that time, and I firmly believe that because I was going to a coach that wanted to be harder on me, wanted to pull more out of me, and that's what I wanted, right? And it wasn't an easier situation, but I do remember when I faced that situation, I moved down to Texas. We drove in the middle of the night. There's a reason why they do that, because if your first impression was seeing West Texas during the day, you would just turn around and get the hell out of there.
That's right.
Right? But, I woke up and I was like, Dad, I don't want to be here. I want to go home. And he was, that's actually one of the first times in my life my dad looked at me and said, hey, I haven't told you no many times, son, but I'm telling you, no, you're staying. Mm-hmm. It was the toughest, most transformative, developmental year of my life, not just as a baseball player, absolutely as a person. I remember, I feel like you have to find your low points in order for you to find out where your high points can be, right? How you can bounce back. And that's what, I feel like I'm getting to the age now, too, where I'm almost the get off my lawn type of guy yelling at the sun or whatever. But I really do. I love the fact that players are getting compensated in some way, shape, or form. But I also feel like at some point in time, if you're not willing to test yourself against the stiffest adversity, if you just want to move away from it and find another circumstance that you feel like will mold better to you versus you molding to that circumstance, I just don't feel like you're going to get the most out of it in terms of your character building.
Sure. Yeah, I think you have to go through some hard times to really figure out what you're made of. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that guys don't do that still. I think there's still a lot of guys that stay, that still have families that are like, you need to stick with that. That was a commitment you made. So I still think that goes on. What I think now that's so different is just it's so promoted. Mm-hmm. Right, you have so many people that are telling a guy you should leave.
Yeah.
Like the first sign of adversity, you should leave. Mm-hmm. That's not how things work. This is what goes on. If you have a bad day, well, you've already got 2 DMs from some other program that's telling you should go there.
How many if you have a good day?
Well,
Even more.
Even more. But no, I'm saying in practice. I'm saying in practice. So you have a rough day of practice. Everybody does. But then in your mind, instead of sitting down and going, why did I have a bad day? Was it me? Did I not know it? You try to decipher what happened and what do I need to do to get better. Or you can go and lean on, well, I've got other people that think I'm good enough to leave. Mm-hmm. And so you're sitting there now with this dilemma of, am I really focused on what I'm doing right now where my feet are, or am I worried about I'm just going to pick up and leave when the opportunity comes up? Mm-hmm. How are you really getting better from that? Where's your focus? Where's your mind at? And those are the things that I think are happening right now, because you do have a lot of people in these guys' ear like, you should do this and this. And, look, those guys, that's who they lean on. They're going to listen to some of those people. And as a coach, you're talking about fighting through adversity, fighting through the challenges, push yourself. You're that close to really just getting over the hill. Well, maybe these other options allow this guy to not do that. Mm-hmm. And then he picks up and leaves somewhere, and it could be really, really good. It could be really, really bad. You just don't know that. And I think the one advantage of pushing through some things is really finding out what you're made of. Mm-hmm. All right? I did do that. You're proud of it. You don't ever talk about all the easy things in a season. Like, you never hear a coach get interviewed and say, oh, it's so easy to win the championship. We had the easiest time in practice.
We had Kellen Moore.
We had that was easy. Yeah, should have said that. But you hear him talk about all the challenges that they went through to get to that position, right? I mean, that's why sports are so valuable, in my opinion, is because you go through these valleys to really get to the peaks to understand what you're made of. And I think, to me, like, that's what I want to see more of that promoted. Mm-hmm. What this guy had to go through to get to where he's at, and then spend some time on those stories. And right now, I mean, it's just about transferring and money and all that. It's not what sports are about. Mm-hmm. Sports are about what you and I are talking about.
Yeah, I mean, in the short term, I think the things that probably should be discussed, again, me personally, I do think there should be some type of commissioner. I do think that, hey, the NFL has a salary cap. Could there be a salary cap? Could there be revenue sharing? Because NIL, I just think it's not transparent enough. It's too easily manipulated. I just feel like the idea of it is good for the athlete, totally, but it's just there is so much that happens probably behind the scenes that people like you actually know the truth of it too, that it just doesn't feel like it is in the spirit of what it was created to get done, I guess.
It's not in the spirit
of
what it was created for. It was in the spirit of it. It was to have the athletes on your team, on your campus, to benefit from their name, image, and likeness, which usually are going to be your better players, mm-hmm. right? And that could trickle down to some of the other guys that don't get that much attention.
Yeah.
What it became is pay for play. Mm-hmm. And that's really where we're at right now. And coaches have said that. And
Lane Kiffin's been super vocal about it.
Super vocal. No one's listened to him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's come out and just exactly said what's happening, mm-hmm. and people have just dismissed it.
Right.
But he's been very vocal about it, that this is not the right way to do it. You're offering inducements to get players, which, people don't think that's a big deal. It's a big deal. You have your donors that are going to give a certain amount of money to your program, but now you're giving it to people. And, what's the deal? If this guy's $750, now he's telling you it's $850, you don't really have a market. And so to your point, create a market. If you want to talk about an NFL model, create a market. This is what rookies get paid. This is what veterans get paid. Like you have a market for certain things. You have some incentives that you might have in that contract. You also have a contract that says you can't leave. Mm-hmm. You're committed to this for a certain amount of time. If you do, and maybe it's like coaches, if you do, there's going to be a buyout that goes along with it. So if you want to leave, someone else has to pay us to get you. And so there just needs to be some more things in place that make it to where that player can really focus on being where he's at. Mm-hmm. And if he really wants to leave, he's going to have to go through some things to get out of there. But that's a possibility, and you're still making money. You're still focused on the right stuff, in my opinion. You're still working towards getting your degree and all the things that you should be doing in college. Mm-hmm. And it's just regulated more for everybody to just understand what it really is, rather than all these made-up numbers and things that are happening behind the scenes that nobody knows. And quite honestly, for your players that are on your team, everybody knows what this guy's making. Mm-hmm. If you're his backup, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Right? Am I really going to get a shot? Am I really going to go out there every single day and push myself and have a chance to beat him out when I know this is kind of where everything sits? And that's, as a competitor, that's frustrating.
Yeah.
And I think as a coach, in my opinion, everybody on your team matters. I know you have your starting quarterback, you have your starting DB. What about the guy that runs down and kickoff, hits the returner, knocks the ball out, creates the turnover that we scoop and score to go win the game, mm-hmm. right? That's a huge play. That might be his only job. He just created the game-winning play. Yeah. To me, so everybody matters, and how you have to create that right now is really difficult. Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to development, probably something that's getting super overlooked right now, because we can talk about the transfer portal where it always seems like, okay, well, we're just going to go get the older guy and just plug them in right here and forget the younger guys for that matter.
Sure.
We'll just let them figure it out. In terms of how you develop guys, is it what it once was, I guess?
No, I don't think that. But I don't think that's the player's fault necessarily. I think that comes back to coaching.
Okay.
I think your job as a coach mm-hmm. is to know your position better than anybody else on the staff, right? Like if you're the wide receiver coach, you're the best on that staff mm-hmm. of knowing that role and understanding your players. And hopefully you're one of the best in the country. Like, that is your job. Mm-hmm. And what I tell our coaches every single time they walked into a meeting, we're selling $1 million idea every single time we walk in there. They have got to believe in what we're doing. Mm-hmm. And I wanted them to think about it like that. Like, you walk into a meeting in business, you got $1 million deal, you're going to sell the hell out of that thing. And you're going to make sure people believe in what you're talking about. You're going to believe in what you're talking about. I felt the same way when coaches walked into a meeting, that's how it should be. I think right now, there's a lot of guys that are so focused on recruiting mm-hmm. and acquiring talent, which is important. But when they get there, they can't do it on their own. You can't just have a guy. There's a few guys that show up mm-hmm. that you can roll the ball out on Saturday and they're going to beat everybody.
Right.
That's a handful of guys. Mm-hmm. Okay, same on Sunday. You have to coach, develop, and get your players to understand what it is you're trying to do. So it goes back to hiring great coaches that are focused on developing their players, that understand how to do it, that really understand the game, understand their position, are professional developing themselves. Mm-hmm. And all that takes time. And I think so much of what's happening in the portal, what the portal creates is just this time of spending with your own team because they can leave, mm-hmm. acquiring new players, like you said, the high school, trying to still recruit the high school players, but also feeling like you can just go get a guy and he's going to show up and be ready to go. Mm-hmm. Like, he's already a done deal, right? We got the talented player. He's going to show up. All we got to do is give him the playbook, hand it to him. I can go out and do whatever I want to do.
Everything's solved.
Everything's solved. It doesn't work like that. There's no player. There's like I said, there's a handful of guys, but very rarely are you going to have that kind of situation.
Right.
So to me,
even when we look at a guy like Michael Penix, for example, right? Like, it seems like he was the solution, right? But if you also look at his track record at Indiana, it wasn't what it was when he was at the University of Washington. So Ryan Grubb and Kalen DeBoer obviously did something correct there to bring the best out of him, right?
Yeah, but those guys, I mean, they developed him.
That's what I mean. It was
Absolutely.
It wasn't this whole like, just give him the
plug
playbook.
him
He's
in.
good.
Yeah,
he's all right.
No, those guys. I mean, with Penix, what they did, and that's one of the best coaching jobs I've seen. Grubb and DeBoer. I mean, he's a really talented player, but what he did is not what he was doing. He did some good things in Indiana, but he was a totally different dude at Washington. And those guys,
the system,
those guys did a phenomenal job. So, that's a really good staff that can develop and coach players. So, to me, it just goes back to you got to have time to do that with your staff. You have to have time to focus on those things, and you can't just go out there, in my opinion, and just get a player and that solves all your problems. You got to coach the guy, develop the guy, and that's not just in football. I mean, he's got to fit in the locker room. He's got to be someone that can contribute to your team and your goals and your standards and values, whatever those things are. That's part of being on a team. That's part of being a part of something bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's where coaches make their money is the guys that can develop those players to come in and do what Penix did, to be a Heisman type player, to go help your team win a national championship, but be the leader and all the things you need him to be through the development of your program.
I wanted to ask you this when it comes to NIL. So, Boise State 2009 Fiesta Bowl champs, they bring back this team in 2010 with Kellen Moore and Doug Martin and Austin Pettis and George Iloka on that team, Jerron Johnson, like if, again, the current rules were in place then, what is the likelihood that Boise State actually keeps their team intact from 2009 to 2010? Yeah,
that would be, it wouldn't be intact.
It'd be impossible.
It'd be impossible. Yeah.
Or like the price tag on it would be nothing the city of Boise could even come close to needing to achieve to keep all of that here.
No, it wouldn't happen. No, too many. I mean, we had so many good players to try to hang on to all of them in the current market right now. It wouldn't have happened. And the other part of it too, most of those guys, I mean, not even at the end of the year, you're talking about game 2 and 3 that they're getting contacted about going here and going there. And that's, to go back and talk about the challenges of coaching. I mean, you think about your guys are getting hit up, your good players, all season long by other schools, which you're not supposed to do, but that's happening. And they're hearing all the numbers. Their families are getting all the numbers. They're getting all this information while they're trying to play for that team. That's a challenge. If they struggle, they're thinking, I got something better already, rather than the focus they need to have on their current situation. But to your question, no. I mean, that would be impossible to keep all those players, because you're going to have guys that can go somewhere else and start. There's going to be more money offered, and they're going to, it would be hard for them not to take that.
Right. Something I just realized too, all of those guys that I mentioned went on to play in the NFL, make pretty good money in the NFL.
Pretty good.
And they did that by staying at Boise State. So again, don't know if that would have been the case. I wanted to ask, how things that I've heard is that schools in the SEC, because they tend to have the most money, would even go after a good player that another school is recruiting and pay him just to keep him away from that school. Is that a reality?
Sure.
Basically paying somebody to be a backup at their school so they're not a starter at another school.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
is that in the best interest of development and a student athlete?
No, it's not. I mean, it's that student athlete. Is it his best interest? Maybe. I mean, depends on what they want. But are those things happening? Absolutely. Like, I'd rather have him come in here and be a backup than you have him and be a starter. Now, here's the thing. I think a lot of players, they can understand that too. These guys are smart. They want to play. I still think that young people want to be in an environment where they fit. I still believe that. There are guys that go for the wrong reasons at times, but they still want to be in an environment where they fit. And I'll go back to A&M. They had the number 1 recruiting class, and there was, you can call it whatever you want. There was conversations about, where they paid for guys or whatever they did, but they ended up getting a really good class. Well, that class, most of them left. I think those guys went there for the wrong reasons. They realized they don't want to live there, be a part of that program. They end up transferring out and going somewhere else. Well, that's a year they wasted. And so I think after that, guys got more aware of, okay, I need to go somewhere where I really fit. This is a good financial situation. I can help my family. I can help myself. I can do whatever. But this is where I want to be.
Yeah.
And I think the more that we have that, the better situation is going to be for college football and for the players, that are entering it. But yeah, the challenge is, can you keep? Well, let's go back to Idaho. I think Idaho, what did they have, 9 or 10 wins this last year? So they hired Eck.
Yep.
He did a really good job.
Did a great job.
And they have 9 or 10 wins, and then a lot of those of his best players, they left.
Yeah.
So
Star running back, star quarterback, they're all off the Power 5 right now.
They're out.
Yeah, tight end, cornerback,
Yeah, so there's a great example. So the expectations now are to win 9 or 10 games, but all those players that did it are gone. So you're starting over.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is you're starting over in the offseason. You're going to go through spring ball. You may have some guys that leave after spring. So now your team really isn't complete until the end of July, maybe 1st of August. And when you start fall camp, that's your team. Unless a guy quits, get injured, something might happen. That's what you have. And so, you're just dealing with that all the way throughout the year. And, I think that's an example of kind of what happens when you have success. And if you can't afford to keep some of those guys, there's going to be other options for them.
Yeah. If this is an unfair hypothetical, shut it down, Hars. Do you think there's a booster out there that if they knew $1 million would better their chances of winning significantly better their chances of winning a football game, that they would make that investment?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess where I'm going with this is I'm waiting for the first scenario, and maybe it's already happened, where all of a sudden a Power 5 school, say an SEC school, has a Group of 5 program with a star player on that team, and they're willing to pay that price tag, not only to get that star player,
sure,
but next year in the fall of 2024, significantly better their chances of maybe having a bad day, Group of 5 team having a good day and pulling that upset. I'm waiting for that day to happen where it's just so obvious that transaction was basically made.
Right.
You think it'll get there?
Say it again.
So if a Power 5 school looks on their schedule and they got a Group of 5 school on in the fall of 2024.
Yep.
They would pay $1 million to get the best player off that team, basically, to not only acquire him, but also better their chances of winning a football game next fall.
Yeah, could it happen? Absolutely. It all depends on what your donors, your coaches, and people part of that program feel like they need to win. And to answer your question, I mean, $1 million to go get a player, absolutely, guys will do. They're doing it right now. That's, again, but that's what we're talking about. That's what's happening. And if that's who we need, then, they're going to invest in that player. Yeah. So, here's the thing, too. I mean, again, these guys, your donors that give money, I mean, they're successful. They understand business, and they want to see their programs succeed. So I think there's some questions that go along with that. I know there are. At the same time, it's like, if that's what we need, then let's go do that. Now, what you have to understand is, are you now taking away from some other positions that you might need to get? That's the hard thing in recruiting, is looking at your numbers and going, all right, not only what we need for our roster to balance out, but now it's financially, what are we able to spend? And I think it's such a hard thing right now to do because there's no market. And, if a guy comes in, let's say you have a class that you feel like is going to cost you $2 million. Well, that same class the next year, if you go win 10, 11 games, is $4 million.
Yep.
And you still got a $2 million class coming in. So what I think, people had looked at is like, it's going to cost anywhere, $12, $14 million to kind of keep the guys that you need on your roster. And, that's where, your donors come in, and people are going to be a part of helping you do that.
Moving this back to you a little bit, I look back, December 2020, the world is going through a pandemic. You leave a place you're very comfortable at to go tackle a challenge in the SEC. Oh, by the way, the transfer portal is now becoming a mainstream thing. The same with NIL. I don't know if it was, you could view it at that time or predicted at that time, an incredibly challenging time. And I asked you earlier, do you want to get back in? There were a couple openings even at Boise State, your alma mater, recently, and most recently it was even the offensive coordinator role. And I'm just curious, did you have any interest in something like that at all, or a part of those discussions in any way?
Yeah, well, first of all, excited for Spencer. And, I'm also excited for Bush to go on and have a chance to further his career, and I think he's going to be in a good position there. But really, the conversations were just trying to help. I mean, that's really what it is. It's good to see Dirk back. I mean, he's going to do a phenomenal job, right? Dirk's a guy, I'll tell you this, when I played for him, I learned the game of football through Dirk. And I know he's a phenomenal teacher, and he's obviously showed that in his success as a coach. But my conversations are more just to try to help out and provide a little bit of wisdom. But back to your point, and go back to 2020, and that was a challenging time.
Yeah.
Mike Leach, rest his soul, he said it best. Throughout that year was we created the most joyless season ever, through all that. I mean, we're playing, we're not playing, and there were so many things. Like, that was a time for me that I got a chance to see some things that I hadn't seen before. And I think that contributed to a decision that if something were to come up, and Auburn did, that there would be an opportunity to move. And I do love this program here. Enjoyed being a part of it, as a player and as a coach, and all the things that we got a chance to do. But that was the right time to move. And to your point, all those things were happening at once. COVID was happening, NIL was happening, the portal was happening, and everything we've been talking about, like, to just focus the team on the things we had to do to be successful, right? Obviously, the coach got fired. They weren't doing well enough. And with all these other things, that was the biggest challenge itself. And our staff, myself, everybody in that program had to really do a great job trying to maintain the focus on what we had to do to install and implement the things we needed to. That was a major challenge. Everybody that kind of went through that, now, I mean, we're kind of getting on the other side of it and getting everybody back to, putting our heads on straight. But now we have the challenges we're talking about with college football. And I do believe that we'll have a commissioner. I do believe that we'll have somebody that's making rules and actually applying those rules to the teams so that it becomes a little bit easier for the coaches to manage, what they're trying to do. I mean, it's not easy to win football games in college or the NFL, but you want to just have some things in place where you know what your job is and how you're going to do it so you can focus on that. And to me, I think that's the whole idea of what we're trying to accomplish.
I want to wrap up by having just a little fun here, okay? So
we haven't been having fun yet?
Oh, I've been having fun. I mean, the less serious topics of that we're facing in college football right now. I'm gonna call this the.
Well, those aren't that serious for me anymore. Yeah, we're just right? talking about.
Hey, one day they might be again.
Yeah, all those poor suckers out there having to deal with
having to figure it out. I'm gonna call this the Harsin hook and ladder.
Okay.
So do you have a favorite play call from your time as a coach? Do you go back and you're like, that's the one?
One of my favorite moments was in the 2014 Fiesta Bowl against Arizona. We had a concept, we called it climb, and it was a go route by the outside receiver in the boundary, a little quick flat. We had a crossing route by the H or Y receiver coming across from the field.
Okay.
And then we had a post curl coming from the field. If we had a certain coverage, we could give a little signal. It was a take route to send either guy, outside receiver, usually the boundary, on a deep post.
Okay.
Okay, we talked about it the whole year, and we gave Grant the freedom to do it the whole year. And it wasn't until the damn Fiesta Bowl that we got that look. Chaz Anderson's in the boundary, and Grant, for the first time all year, I see him do that, and I'm like, he called it.
Let's go.
And he gets back there, and Chaz runs right by the corner. The safety bites like we thought he would. And he is so open, and Grant drills him, and we score a touchdown. And I'm like, that was it, man. The whole year of trying to get this done, and it finally happens in the biggest moment, on the biggest stage, and he's able to get that done. I mean, we talked about the 2007 team in the Fiesta Bowl, but that moment right there, just from coaching him, him being a fifth-year senior, all those things, that was one where it's like it all came together and he had his moment, and to me that was one of the best plays we had.
So what goes through your mind when you see that on the sideline?
Finally.
Did you know?
Yeah.
Did you know, like, when ball's hiked, you're like, this is going to work?
Yeah, you can see. Well, you hope so, right? You got to still make the catch and throw and all that. But the look of it was there, And the way he did it and how he scanned the defense and saw exactly what we were looking for, and he gave it to him. And Chaz, he's got to recognize it too, nods, and they're on the same page. Like, it's those things in a moment like that when it's the biggest moment of their career on the biggest stage that they're able to think that clearly and get it done. To me, like, that's the stuff in football as a coach and even as a player that are the things you remember the most, right? It's just in those moments we were able to get something like that done.
I don't know if I'm doing Grant Hedrick justice, because I think I've said the fact that he might be the most underrated Boise State football player of all time. I think I've said it so many times now that he actually might be getting the recognition that he might be deserved, I would say.
He deserves it. Yeah, hey, I'll say this about him, like Mr. Consistent. If you called a play and the first read was open, he'd throw it.
Boom.
So, like, calling plays for him, I think, you could ask Sanford on that too. I mean, calling plays for him, you knew what was going to happen. Like, if you got the look, that was going to happen. It's going to be 2nd and 8. And then how he improvised with his legs. Like, that guy could go. I think he's underrated as a runner because he did some special things with his feet.
3rd and 8. In your time, I'll even go back. You can say, as you're a player, assistant coach, head coach at Boise State, 3rd and 8. Who is the wide receiver that you are attempting to get the ball to in a big moment?
Austin Pettis.
Why Austin Pettis?
Clutch.
Yeah?
Every time. He was in our
and that was when you were the OC.
Yeah, in our 2010 Fiesta Bowl, he had broken his leg earlier that year and came back. We had I think it was a 3rd and 6, and we put him in there on it, and he limped through the route. I mean, he had no speed hardly at all. Limped through the route, made the catch, 1st down. I go back to him because I watched him in practice every day. We had a 5-minute segment, wide receivers versus DBs. And since he's been gone, I've never seen it recreated the way it was. It was 5 minutes. I wouldn't call it chaos. I mean, just war. It was absolute war. So as coaches, we sat back and just watched it. The DBs and the wide receivers, and Austin Pettis was the ringleader. And he challenged every DB, usually would win, would challenge them if they weren't giving him their best effort. Like, that guy made everybody around him better. And he studied film. He did all the right things. He was a guy that, no question. I mean, if you want to put the ball in somebody's hands, and we had some really good receivers too. We've had some guys that are phenomenal.
I was like, you could pick.
And there's a lot. Yeah. I hate to pick just one. I can pick a lot of guys, but he's a guy I remember just in the most clutch situations that he was a go-to guy.
Yeah. How about this? 4th and 1 on the 1, game on the line. What running back are you giving the ball to?
All of them. Yeah, all of them we had. Yeah, you could use all of them. Man, we've had so many good ones. Jay Ajayi is a guy you couldn't deny.
I mean,
he's just Jay. That guy did some amazing things.
He did.
And if you're going to get a 1st down, even if it's bad, Utah State 2014. It might have been a short yardage play because we were in a heavy set. Everything just wadded up in the middle, and I don't know how he got out of it and spun out of it and had a 20-yard gain, or might have even been a touchdown out of it. But that guy could figure out a way to get it done. And so, I mean, we've had Doug, McNichols, and Madison. We've had so many great players.
The stable's loaded.
Yeah, it is. You go back to Forsey. I mean, all those years, and I mean, any one of those guys you can count on. Jay was a guy that during that year when we were in those situations, I mean, he got it done. I don't think we're ever denied.
No.
In those moments.
Yeah, the San Diego State game stands out to me. The shootout down in Reno in 14 stands out to me. One of the coolest plays, with all due respect to Aaron Tevis' little brother, who was a hell of a player himself in the Fiesta Bowl. But you guys run, I believe that was on Statue of Liberty, and Jay breaks his arm Jay breaks the safety's arm running through an arm tackle.
He did.
Going into the end zone. That was
broke like 3 tackles.
Yeah.
And then, he did. He broke his arm, and that was all Jay.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say, we designed a decent play, and he made all the rest happen.
Great.
Yeah, he made it great. And that's really what it came down to. That's the cool thing, man. All those games, and I think the whole game of football, right? I mean, it comes down to players. You got some things you put together, but those guys, especially in those big moments, man, they made some huge plays for us.
I got 2 more for you. Who spent more time in the film room, Brett Rypien or Kellen Moore?
Man, about equal.
Yeah.
Yeah, those 2 guys. Yeah, there's not anybody better than those 2. Kellen, I remember as a coordinator, I'd sit in my office, and he sat right across from me in the wide receiver room. And it had to have been 5 or 6 hours. And then Brett was the same way. And I didn't see him as much, being the head coach and all that, but he would spend his days very calculated, his schedule, like when he would come in, what he's watching on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. He had it all planned out. That was the one thing about Brett. Brett was so further along in his just overall structure.
Yeah.
Kellen already had it. Kellen had his dad. Dad was a coach. Kellen had a book, a 4-inch book when I went and recruited him, that he had drawn up all these plays that his dad had or what he'd seen on TiVo. And he had all these games recorded. So he was just a football junkie. But both those guys, man, you could never question their preparation habits.
Makes sense.
And the thing about both those two, and Zabransky was this way too. All those guys, really all the quarterbacks, those guys at practice were intense. There wasn't one quarterback that we had that didn't show up every single day to come out there and try to have his best day of practice.
Yeah.
And that was a cool thing. I think that was just ingrained from all those years of great QB play, that there was an expectation those guys had. And when those guys went out there, they were prepared, they knew what to do. Very few bad days, but every practice was full go for those guys. And I think that just carried over, from player to player.
I say this about Brett just because I was here for his whole career. I caught the last year of Kellen, but I think it also shows why dude's been able to last in the NFL for so long himself and just continues to hang around NFL rosters, and he probably will continue to hang around NFL rosters for that matter. As an offensive guy, is there a Boise State player, or which Boise State player would have kept you up all night had you had to face him as a defensive player?
Jeez, there's not just one. There's a lot of those guys. Yeah, I couldn't pick one there. It's probably not fair to pick just one. But
I get you. I'm putting you in a tough spot, I know.
Yeah, all those guys. We had so many good.
I just look at the year that Leighton had in 17 was unbelievable. And it's actually one of my favorite moments is the Colorado State game in 17. Miraculous comeback, get the onside kick.
Yep.
And it's so funny because we talk about the cliches, leaving it all out on the field. And I was walking behind Leighton. The dude was in tears. And I don't think that it was necessarily because he was happy, sad, anything. I think that he was so emotional, like just emotionally shot.
He's spent.
That it was like and I don't mean to speak for Leighton in this, but like I think he was so emotionally shot that was all that was left, right? You could tell the tank was at zero.
Sure. I 100% agree. That's how Leighton played. Leighton's, I guess it was his junior year when he was voted captain. So our very first game, I remember being in the locker room. I started my pregame speech, and I might have got like 10 seconds into it, and he just took over. Like the emotion, he just couldn't control himself, right? He was just like, he was such a great leader. And maybe I wasn't doing a good enough job or whatever, but he just started talking to the guys, and that was it. Like, we were ready to play. But that's how Leighton was almost every day, and certainly on game day. Like, he spent himself on the field. And he made the play at the end of the game. It caused the fumble.
Yep.
But that whole game, I remember we had such a horrible first half. Everyone's shocked, like, what is going on here? This is not what anybody expected. And we get in the locker room, and it was just like, hey, look, guys, we're going to go out there, and I don't care what happens in the second half. When I pop on the tape on Sunday, I want to see every single guy giving their very best effort, and we're going to chip away at this. And sure enough, big play Alexander Madison, and the rest is history. But
underrated
to me,
part
like
of that, too, is Sed was like dealing with something that game, too, and he comes out and gets the onside kick.
Gets the onside kick.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect onside kick. You'll never see one better than that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, that was that team. I think they believed they could win. They knew what had happened in the first half wasn't, who we are, and they came out there and, they finished out the game. But, yeah, there's not one guy. Back to your question, there's not, I wouldn't pick one guy. There's a lot of guys that give you headaches, and we got to see them every day. I mean, the defensive
Johnson
guys.
would give you a headache.
Yeah, well, they all did. I mean, Tanner Vallejo, I'll go back. Here's a story.
Okay.
Corey Hall.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm the tight ends coach. Corey Hall's on the scout team. We're trying to run stuff against our scout team. And, look, we want them to give us a great look, but we also want them to let us win. That guy never once let us win. Even after he blew a play up, he would get yelled at, told not to do it again, and he would nod and he would do it again.
Yeah.
And the thing, I couldn't stand him at the time out of practice, but loved every single thing about him because he was like, you're not beating me. That was his mindset. I don't care what you tell me. I don't care who you are. I'm not getting beat. That's not how I play. And that was the mentality, a lot of those guys had. And so I think there's a lot of guys that would be like that we have to go play against.
Made him a Super Bowl champ, Boise State Hall of Famer.
Yeah, how about
Corey
that?
Hall. This has been so much fun, Bryan. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
I've had a blast. Maybe we can rope you in here to tell us some more stories here in the future.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it. Tell Kess and the gang back home we're thinking about him. It's cool to see Davis doing his thing. I was at most of his games this year too, so you weren't the only one. I was at a lot of them too.
No, and I appreciate that too.
Cool to see him thrive.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Bryan Harsin, everybody. This is Jay Sports Bar, serving the Idaho sports community.